The William J. Paugh House is a pre-Civil War Gothic revival house, built by architect, builder, and artist Charles L. Parrish. It's listed on the National Register of Historic Places because of its architecture and history. The lithograph shown was done before the house was built by noted Gold Rush artist the Knoll brothers, who resided in San Francisco but had a commercial art studio in Sacramento. Examples of their work can be seen in the Crocker Art Museum in Sacramento, such as Sunday Morning in the Mines, a large 54-inch by 84-inch painting in oil, along with other of their works. This is the Parrish 1854 drawing of Jackson. He did drawings of 3 Gold Rush towns that year: Jackson, Volcano, and Moke Hill. All are the earliest images we have of these towns. The Jackson drawing most likely shows the crowd gathered for the hanging of Christopher Bennett on Jackson's notorious hanging tree. Parrish left French Canada in 1838 when he was 23 years old, first going to New York, later to New Haven, Connecticut, where he trained in architecture, then leaving for California in 1851. Here are Parrish's 2 other sketches done in 1854. These sketches courtesy Bancroft Library, University of California, Berkeley. Today, Volcano still looks pretty much the same as it did in the Victorian era. This is the beautifully preserved town of Mokelumne Hill, population 1,000. At the height of the gold rush, 10,000 people were here, most panning for gold in the Mokelumne River. Unfortunately, Parrish's bride-to-be was killed in a runaway accident before they could occupy the house. Broken-hearted, he created a raffle called the Charles L. Parrish Gift and Musical Entertainment Raffle. 8,650 tickets were sold across the state. The house was described as the most elegant residence in the state. It was won by recently retired Sheriff William J. Paugh. We don't know if the runaway was a horse or a horse and buggy. Is the lady on the porch Parrish's future bride? We don't know, but it seems likely. This is the ad for the raffle, won by Sheriff Paugh. The finding of this raffle ad has an interesting history as well. In 1978, a renovation was being done to the state capitol building in Sacramento. A time capsule was dug up under the building foundation that contained 2 of the Amador Ledger newspapers that had this ad from 1860. We don't have many newspapers from that period because much of downtown Jackson burned in 1861, including the newspaper office. Larry Sonato, founder of the Amador Archives, went to Sacramento and photographed the newspapers. Parrish was an entrepreneur as well as an artist and builder. An important project was the building of the Big Bar Bridge across the Mokelumne River, where Highway 49 and the Mokelumne intersect today. He had the ferry there prior to that. But after the Great Flood of winter 1862 that swept away the bridges, ferries, mills, and houses along the river, he drew up plans for a new bridge and toll house. This is the original plan for the bridge and the toll house that I photographed courtesy of Parrish's great-granddaughter Betty Clues, who my wife Jeanette found in Sacramento. Sheriff Paugh, an Indiana native, was Amador County Sheriff from 1857 until 1860. He was an 1850 graduate of Rush Medical College, doing his thesis on pneumonia biliosa. This is a photo of the Paugh family. Sheriff Paugh, his 2 children on rocking horses, and his wife. Courtesy Bancroft Library, UC Berkeley. Being sheriff wasn't always easy in the gold country. He was the second elected sheriff of Amador County, succeeding Sheriff Phoenix, who was shot and killed chasing Mexican bandits after serving as sheriff for only a year. After completing Sheriff Phoenix's term, he was re-elected and served an additional term before retiring. He married Ruth Alkire in February 1861 and won the House in April 1861. He was 36. It was a good year for him. Sheriff Paugh did not use his title of doctor when he was sheriff or when he was running for sheriff. When I researched him in Alameda County and discovered he was a physician and surgeon, I was able to track him to the Rush Medical College in Chicago. Although the college had lost most of their records in the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, they did have the commencement and graduation publication for the class of 1849 to 1850. The archivist for Rush College located William J. Paugh in this publication and copied the whole thing for me. By 1870, Dr. Paugh had moved to San Francisco and practiced medicine as a surgeon until his death. He died in 1902. His wife, Ruth, died in 1903. In 1870, Paugh sold the house to George Snowden Andrews, Wells Fargo agent. Pictured is a photo of his son, Amador Andrews, who grew up in the house, and a patent for a new type of furniture caster, granted to George Andrews. I have no photo of George, but found a photo of his son Amador Andrews and his son's biography in a book called The History of Wells Fargo. He was an important figure in that history. George Snowden Andrews was the Jackson Wells Fargo agent from 1857 until 1874. In 1874, Andrews sold the house to J.B. Stevens and his wife, Mattie. Her maiden name was Mattie Gordon. The Gordon family still live in Jackson in a large brick house built in 1861. Picture is Mattie Gordon and also the Napa State Asylum for the Insane. Stevens sold the house in 1876 to become the secretary of that institution, an important job that was responsible for much of that institution's management. He was there for at least 15 years. In 1876, Stevens sold the house to Andrew W. Kerr. He and his wife were the first teachers in the new brick schoolhouse in Jackson. In 1880, the house was sold to Superior Court Judge George Moore and his wife Viola. George Moore was shot and killed in the sitting room in 1883. At 33 years old, he was the youngest Superior Court judge in the state. On the day of the shooting, his wife and his children were visiting in San Francisco. The Sacramento Daily Union newspaper did a series of articles on the shooting called Unraveling the Mystery of a Terrible Tragedy. The full story can be seen in the book that's linked to at the end of this video. The drawings seen here were originally published in 1880 in a book called The History of Amador County, along with Judge Moore's biography. The only change we see are that the porch battlements have been replaced by pine tree cutouts. We found 4 of these in the attic.